In the kitchen filled with grime, I mechanically picked up one plate after another, swiftly wiping the greasy surface with an oily cloth, then quickly rinsing it under running water before casually setting it aside. My fingers, soaked in the sink, had turned pale and swollen. Suddenly, my phone rang. The loudspeaker ringtone wouldn't have been out of place even in a bustling city. I casually wiped my hands on my sticky apron, pulled out the phone, and tilted my head to hold it between my shoulder and ear. "Hello, who is it?" My voice was booming, and my hands never stopped moving. If I didn't finish washing these dishes today, my pay would be docked again. There was no sound from the other end, only faint breathing, growing impatient. I raised my voice and asked again, "Who is it?" Outside, the drinking customers were getting rowdy again, with shouts from drinking games and toasts rising and falling one after another. Amid the jarring noise, a response finally came through the phone. "It's me." The plate in my hand slipped and fell into the filthy sink, splashing water onto my greasy, unwashed hair. I knew that voice all too well. It was Ji Soo-young. Back in high school, I could pinpoint him in a crowd just by his voice. I'd even save his voice messages and listen to them over and over. He had been a ray of light in my high school life. But it was that very light that led to me getting caught cheating on the college entrance exam, completely derailing my life. I was a bit dazed, and in a moment of distraction, the phone I had tucked between my shoulder and ear suddenly fell. I hurriedly fished it out of the sink, but the screen had already gone black and it had shut off. I tried turning it back on, but there was no response. My hard-earned wages from a whole day of work had just been ruined by a single phone call. By the time I got home, it was already late at night. The old refrigerator was completely empty. Even a mouse passing through would have had to offer me a solo meal. I took out my phone and tried turning it on again. Luckily, this time it flickered a couple of times and shakily booted up. Before I could even rejoice at its ability to last another 500 years, a sudden bright white light flashed, making it impossible for me to keep my eyes open. When I opened my eyes again, I was woken up by a piece of chalk flying toward me. "Hello everyone, welcome to Glimmer of Love." On the podium, my high school homeroom teacher was staring at me with disgust, her eyes full of contempt. "Some people sleep in class and eat after class, even animals know how to think. But some people don't even have a brain." I stared blankly at the podium, the classroom, and the blackboard in front of me, rubbing my eyes as I tried to go back to sleep. This had to be a dream. Today had already been unlucky enough. Why would I have a nightmare even in my sleep? I was just trying to hypnotize myself into dreaming about a handsome guy with 18-pack abs when I got hit by another chalk piece. The pain felt so real that I had to open my eyes. On the podium, the homeroom teacher I used to despise the most sneered and added, "Some people are destined for university, while others might not even make it into a vocational college." That sentence jolted me awake completely, and I realized everything around me was incredibly clear. I wasn't dreaming. I had really come back. Seeing me standing there in a daze, the homeroom teacher grew even angrier and threw another piece of chalk at me. Instinctively, I reached out and caught it, more accurately than catching a blade barehanded. This kind of hand speed was honed from washing and stacking plates in the kitchen. If a plate fell, it cost 50 yuan. My ability to swiftly, accurately, and decisively catch falling or flying objects wasn't instinct. It was the fear of being enslaved by money. The homeroom teacher didn't expect me to be so disrespectful and roared furiously, "Get out!" I picked up the English book from the desk and walked out of the classroom. Taking a deep breath of the uniquely lifeless air of senior year, I truly felt that I had really gone back in time. To be honest, if I weren't afraid of giving my homeroom teacher a heart attack. I really wanted to tearfully hug her. Being hit on the head with a piece of chalk felt so good, because when you grow up, what might be thrown at you could be a flimsy but incorrect form, an accidentally misrecorded ledger, or a half-smoked cigarette butt, and behind all of these are deductions from your paycheck. The adult world has no poetry and distant dreams, only endless dishes to serve and plates to wash. I opened the English book in my hand. I could practically recite the texts from memory. After all, I had read them countless times in my previous life, to the point where the book was nearly falling apart. "You brought an English book out for detention." Can you even understand it? A familiar voice reached my ears. I looked up and saw Ji Suyang leaning lazily against the wall. I gazed at him infatuatedly. My eyes even more affectionate than in my previous life. Because I loved him so much that I wanted him to taste all the suffering I had endured, I gave him a friendly smile and asked, "Why are you out here too?" He glanced at me briefly, took off his glasses, and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. "The air in here isn't great." After a pause, he turned to look at me. "You seem a bit different from usual today." I looked at his handsome, aloof face, without his glasses. He seemed a little less cold. I showed a hint of embarrassment, smiled shyly, and lowered my head just enough to reveal my slender neck. "I just woke up a bit dazed." Ji Suyang didn't suspect anything. After all, in the past, I only did 2 things at school: sleep and chase after him. Breakfast and milk in the morning, a refilled water bottle between classes, a fan in the summer, a hand warmer in the winter, according to my best friend Lin Yin. The only things I didn't do for him were eat and use the bathroom. There was no other reason. I just liked people who did well academically. In my eyes, he was different from everyone else in the class, even from me. He was smart, had excellent grades, was handsome yet aloof, and there was a light in his eyes. Seeing him score high on exams made me happier than if I had done well myself. Because I couldn't change myself, watching someone else strive to rise above the mess was a kind of comfort. And Ji Suyang was the placebo in my heart. Now, he is still my spiritual pillar, but not as a placebo, more like a stimulant. I lifted my head and looked at the boy beside me. He was leaning against the wall with his eyes closed, the wind tousling his bangs, and even the sunlight seemed to treat him with extra tenderness. I gently tugged at his sleeve. I knew he liked well-behaved girls. Ji Suyang slowly opened his eyes. Behind the glare on his glasses, his gaze seemed somewhat cold. Ignoring his indifference, I smiled sweetly and said, "Ji Suyang, could you tutor me? I want to study hard." He looked a bit surprised and frowned. This was something the old me would never have done. In my past life, I was afraid of disturbing his studies, afraid of pulling him down from his pedestal. I ended up becoming the ultimate simp, but in the end, I still annoyed him and faced his retaliation. I continued to play the weak card. "I want to go to college with you, and I'll work hard." Ji Suyang stared at me in silence. His expression unreadable. I didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. After all, I was his older sister by 5 years, and with this reason, he definitely wouldn't suspect a thing. As someone with a love-struck mindset, any action related to him, no matter how bizarre, seemed perfectly justified. I pressed my advantage. "Just think of it as repaying me for all those times I brought you breakfast. Please help me out." Ji Suyang's ears gradually turned red. Perhaps it was the first time he had faced such straightforward coquettishness from me. He turned his head, revealing his handsome profile, and slowly nodded. I grabbed his sleeve and said with delight, "Thank you." Sure enough, his face turned red as well. It turns out Ji Suyang is a closet flirt. All that talk about liking well-behaved girls was nonsense. He actually falls for the bold approach. No wonder in my past life I fawned over him for 3 years only to end up with a rejection card. Did he despise me that much back then? So much that he was willing to ruin my life? After math class, the homeroom teacher walked out of the classroom and glanced at Ji Suyang and me with disdain as she passed by. When she saw the English book in my hand, her contempt reached its peak. "You brought an English book to stand outside as punishment. What, afraid you won't fall asleep and need to hypnotize yourself with that?" She walked away scornfully in her high heels. During the break, the classroom was extremely noisy, a stark contrast to the top class at the end of the hallway. The curtains in the top class were drawn tightly, and the doors and windows were shut. Occasionally, 1 or 2 students would come out, but they were always in a hurry. I sat back down to pack my things, and my best friend Lin Yin grabbed my hand anxiously, saying, Shia, you're not thinking of dropping out because the teacher upset you, are you? Don't pay any attention to that old witch. She looks down on everyone like that." I looked up at Lin Yin. She was wearing her school uniform, full of youthful energy. I still remember seeing her once in my past life. She was dressed in an elegant dress, wearing tasteful makeup, standing in a bustling market that didn't suit her refined demeanor, looking at me with pity as I washed dishes. Seeing her so vibrant now felt a bit unfamiliar. I patted her head and said, "Yin Yin, you're definitely going to be beautiful in the future. By the way, senior year is the last year of high school. Make sure to study hard, there's no helping it, after being beaten down by society. You can't help but carry a bit of that dad energy." Lin Yin looked completely confused and asked, "Xia, are you leaving?" I continued tidying up the things on my desk without looking up. "Yeah," the next second. I heard sobbing beside me. Looking up, I saw Lin Yin crying pitifully. "I'll miss you. Which hospital are you going to? I'll come visit you." I looked at her speechlessly. "What a great friend," I explained. "I'm just moving to sit next to Jiyu Suyang." Lin Yin immediately stopped crying. Her expression changing faster than flipping a book, she beamed with a knowing smile. "Go for it, girl, I'll always have your back." Then she winked at me, sending a shiver down my spine. I walked over to Jiyu Suyang's desk, and his deskmate was Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was playing a game, cursing under his breath. "Does this support even know how to play? What a noob, and this jungler, he's practically at death's door and still farming in the jungle. Is he trying to die jungling?" I used to really dislike Xiao Chen, always thinking that sitting next to Jiyu Suyang would affect his studies. Later, when I was working as a waiter, we actually got along quite well. He went to a vocational college and ended up working at a construction site. He often came to our restaurant to eat, and we ran into each other frequently. "Xiao Chen, let's switch seats." He frowned and glanced up, muttering, "Brother Jiyu definitely won't sit with you." I turned to look at Jiyu Suyang, who was bowing his head and working on a practice test. The paper was clean and tidy, much like him. That set of questions looked quite familiar to me. I must have practiced it more than once in my past life. I glanced sideways at Xiao Chen's gaming stats. He had been completely crushed early on and still wasn't farming, instead constantly trying to gank, after dying once more. Xiao Chen angrily threw his phone on the table, looking like he had given up. I picked up his phone, followed my teammates into the brush, and secured a kill in one go. Xiao Chen watched my moves from the side and exclaimed, "Holy crap, that's amazing. Hey, don't go forward. There's someone in the brush ahead." After ambushing from the brush a few times, I finally farmed up enough to solo kill enemies. Just then, I handed the phone back to Xiao Chen. He excitedly tapped the screen rapidly and shouted, "Holy crap, we won, and I'm the MVP." He turned to look at me, his eyes full of admiration. "Xia, you're amazing. How come I never knew you were so good at gaming before?" "Actually, I never used to play games before." Later, after I was caught cheating and had no books to read, I spent those months drowning myself in games to vent my emotions, and that's how I improved my skills. I gave a faint smile. "I usually play on the computer, so you don't see me play often. Can we switch seats now?" Xiao Chen scratched his head and looked at Jiyu Suyang. "Brother Jiyu, you don't mind, do you?" Jiyu Suyang lifted his head slightly, his thin lips parting. "Go ahead and switch." "Alright." Xiao Chen packed up his things and moved to the front desk. I smoothly sat down next to Jiyu Suyang, curved my lips into a smile, and extended my hand. "Hello there, new deskmate." Jiyu Suyang didn't return the handshake, but tossed me a test paper, his tone indifferent. "Do this first." I took the test paper and looked at it. It was a basic math paper, all fundamental knowledge points, with standard question types. I instinctively retorted, "A basic paper." Jiyu Suyang looked up, his expression calm. "Can you tell that this is the basic test?" I suddenly remembered my current persona as an academic underachiever. Logically speaking, whether it was the basic test or the advanced one, both would be like hieroglyphics to me. I immediately feigned confusion and shook my head. "I'm just surprised. Why start with a math test right away? I can't solve a single problem." Jiyu Suyang closed his eyes helplessly and sighed. "It's fine. Just do as much as you can. I need to gauge your current level first." I was a bit curious. Didn't he already know how poor my grades were? Probably he just wanted to see exactly how bad they were. Looking at the familiar math problems on the exam paper, I quickly calculated in my mind. The fill-in-the-blank and multiple-choice questions at the beginning were relatively basic. properties of complex numbers, methods for solving inequalities, monotonicity of functions, and so on, all questions that could be answered correctly with careful attention. Just as I was about to check the more complex problems at the end, Ji Suyang suddenly asked, "Can't you solve any of them?" No, I just wanted to take a look at the more complex problems at the end." He handed me a piece of scratch paper and said, "Take your time. If you don't know how to solve a problem, look at the examples in the textbook. Math is all about applying what you've learned to new situations." I nodded, took the paper, and buried my head in hard work. Half an hour later, I handed the test paper to Ji Suyang. He looked at the solution steps for each problem on the paper and frowned. "You can't solve this problem, but you've written the thought process quite well." He sighed, pulled out a red pen, and explained each problem to me one by one. "All right, that's all for this paper for now. I'll organize the wrong problems for you later. Why didn't you explain the last problem?" Ji Suyang opened his mouth, habitually pushing up his glasses. "This problem is too difficult. I'm not even sure I can solve it myself. Let me take a look and then teach you." I glanced at that big problem. It actually wasn't that hard. It just required a thorough understanding of function knowledge. Maybe he thought I wouldn't understand even if he taught me. I found it somewhat amusing but didn't expose him. The homeroom teacher was unfazed by our seat changes. She couldn't be bothered to intervene, nor did she want to. She always believed that as a graduate of a prestigious university, she should have been assigned to teach the top class. In her eyes, students' grades were everything. Those with high scores were outstanding, while those with poor scores were worthless. And she looked down on every student in our class, never believing we could get into college. Strangely, she also particularly disliked the top student, Ji Suyang. But that suited me just fine. After nearly a month as Ji Suyang's deskmate, I still brought him breakfast every day and fetched water for him after class, as if nothing had changed. The only difference was that I was putting in unprecedented effort in my studies. Everyone said it was the power of love. Striving hard for love, which was just too sweet to watch. During English class, the teacher was explaining reading comprehension, and I mechanically jotted down every new word the teacher mentioned. Even though I already knew them all, Ji Suyang had said that the first step to improving grades was to listen attentively in class. If you could grasp the material during the lesson, it would make after-class review much easier. I'm feeling a bit bored, so I turn my head to look at Ji Suyang. He's taking notes while recording the new vocabulary explained by the teacher in his vocabulary notebook. "Those are the words I have to memorize every day." He lowers his head, studying them with great focus, writing both the Chinese and English clearly and neatly. It has to be said that Ji Suyang is quite dedicated when it comes to tutoring me. He's gathered all sorts of exercises suitable for my current level, collections of mistakes I've made, and summaries of key knowledge points. Every day, besides the school assignments, there's his private tutoring, memorizing English, reciting ancient poems, and practicing past exam questions. A few days ago, I even received a set of notes from him, a comprehensive framework of high school math knowledge. He said he completed it back in his second year of high school and doesn't need it anymore. I flipped through it, and the notes were indeed detailed, with classic example problems listed under each knowledge point. It's a shame that in my previous life, I never had the chance to make use of them. After class, Xiao Chen from the front row turns around to chat with me. "Sis Xia, your gaming skills yesterday were absolutely incredible." Looking at his admiring expression, I find it a bit amusing. Younger brothers are just so sincere. After playing just one game with him, he's already completely in awe of me. I think for a moment and feel the timing is about right. Our relationship is pretty good now. So I ask, "Xiao Chen, we're already in our final year of high school. Aren't you planning to focus on studying for a while and give it your all for the college entrance exams?" "The college entrance exam is still a year away. Why rush?" Xiao Chen said nonchalantly, his eyes fixed on his phone. "If I don't get into university, I can always go to a vocational college. I won't starve even if I end up working in a factory. Besides, with my grades, I definitely don't stand a chance anyway." I stayed silent for a while, waiting for him to finish his game. When he looked at me curiously, I said with a serious expression, Haven't you ever thought about what you'd do if you met a girl you really liked but weren't good enough for her? Xiao Chen scratched his head and replied indifferently, if I'm not good enough, I'll just find someone else. Besides, how can girls compare to video games? I could spend my whole life with games. I smiled helplessly. In his previous life, Xiao Chen fell in love with an outstanding girl and even moved to the city where she was studying for her. However, her parents looked down on him for his low education and lack of prospects, and he could only watch helplessly as the relationship came to an end. I once saw him chugging beer one glass after another, tugging at his tie, his neck flushed red. To earn her parents' respect, he wore a suit to work at a construction site, only to be laughed at. Yet wearing a suit couldn't change his circumstances. In the end, he gave up the girl he loved so deeply, saying he didn't want to hold her back. When the girl graduated with a master's degree, she came to Xiao Chen, who was dead drunk, and returned the flowers and car keys to him. After kissing his cheek in tears, she turned and left. It was only later that I found out Xiao Chen had spent all his savings to buy her a car. I teased him for being foolish, saying that giving a car wasn't as meaningful as giving a ring. He smiled bitterly and replied, someone will give her a ring someday, but that person can't be me. But all of this, I couldn't tell the Xiao Chen in front of me. Just as I was at a loss for how to continue persuading him, a test paper was handed over. Didn't we already turn in a math test today? I asked Jiyu Suyang in confusion. Without looking up, he retorted, did you do well on that test? I didn't say anything more and took the test to start working on it. Making up wrong answers was quite mentally taxing, especially since he would question my reasoning to pinpoint where my thinking went wrong. It was downright. Before I could finish the test, another physics and chemistry paper was handed to me. If you have time to play games, then you should do a few more test papers, Jiyu Suyang said with a blank expression, his tone cold, exuding a low-pressure aura. Though it was unclear why he was in such a bad mood, I reluctantly took the test papers, grumbling inwardly, this guy really holds a grudge. Not only me, but Xiao Chen was also affected by Jiyu Suyang's low-pressure mood, and you, Jiyu Suyang looked at Xiao Chen, so free, playing games every day. Don't speak in absolutes. What if you end up liking someone but aren't good enough for them? You'll regret it when it's too late to cry. Xiao Chen was left speechless and reluctantly put away his phone. Jiyu Suyang tossed him a notebook of incorrect answers. These are the questions you got wrong before. You and she have similar foundations. Show it to me after you finish. Xiao Chen hugged the notebook, looking at me pitifully with pleading eyes. I showed no sympathy. Hurry up and do it, if you don't get into college. How will you provide a good life for the person you like in the future? Xiao Chen let out a miserable groan and turned to start working on the problems. I looked at his sorrowful back and couldn't help but laugh, only to realize that Jiyu Suyang beside me had an even lower pressure. In English class, I was propping up my head and almost fell asleep when someone woke me up by tapping me with a pen. As soon as I opened my eyes, I met Jiyu Suyang's dark gaze. He stared at me for a long moment before turning his attention back to the blackboard, his tone cold. If you're tired, go out and wash your face. I didn't go out. Instantly awakened by the chill in his tone, after class, I could clearly sense that he was still angry. Even when Xiao Chen turned around to ask a question, he glared at him several times. Brother Jiyu, what's wrong with you? Xiao Chen asked quietly. Jiyu Suyang didn't speak, and I also shook my head. Indicating that I didn't know, Xiao Chen leaned over and whispered to me, Sister Xia, why don't you ask Brother Jiyu, aren't you worried? Looking at his exaggerated expressions, I found it quite amusing. After explaining the problem to him, I received another round of his mindless praise. Sister Xia, you're amazing. You've only been learning from Brother Jiyu for about a month and you're already this skilled. You're definitely going to rank among the top in the class in this monthly exam. After Xiao Chen turned around, I felt like there were always eyes on me from the side. I turned my head and noticed Jiyu Suyang frowning, looking somewhat down. I was almost speechless at his unpredictable mood swings and couldn't help but ask, is it because you usually assign me too much homework? It's fine, he said, looking up at me. If the workload is too heavy, you can tell me, and I'll adjust it. The monthly exam is in a few days. So try not to doze off in class anymore." After saying that, he lowered his head and continued organizing my incorrect answers, with faint dark circles under his eyes. It seemed he was quite tired too. Having to grade my papers, sort through my mistakes, and supervise my vocabulary and poetry recitations every day, these past few days, I have indeed been staying up quite late. To prevent him from discovering the secret of my rebirth, I first complete all the problems on scratch paper, then deliberately write some answers incorrectly, all while carefully controlling the accuracy rate so it doesn't seem too abrupt. Going through this entire process is really quite time-consuming. The monthly exam arrived as scheduled. For the convenience of proctoring, the exam was held in our own classroom, but the seating order was shuffled. I was seated in the first row, while Jiyu Suyang was in the last row before the Chinese exam started. He had me recite and write several passages of poetry from memory and gave me a few arguments, saying they might come in handy. For the first time ever, I even received his encouragement. "Good luck, don't be nervous." I smiled and nodded. But the moment I turned around, my expression turned cold. The Chinese and English exams on the first day went quite smoothly. During the lunch break on the second day, Jiyu Suyang gave me a few practice problems, claiming they were questions he had predicted himself. After checking my answers, he smiled with satisfaction and said, "You did well. You should be able to score decently in math this time." I smiled back and replied, "You do your best too." When the final math exam began, the examination hall fell completely silent. The homeroom teacher's high heels clicked loudly on the floor, but she seemed completely unaware, pacing for a good 15 minutes before finally taking a seat. The only sounds left in the classroom were the soft rustling of writing and the turning of test papers. With half an hour left until the end of the exam, I had already reached the final question, guessing that Jiyu Suyang must have finished long ago. Just then, someone's phone suddenly rang. The homeroom teacher frowned as he scanned the room. "Whose phone is that? Didn't we say all phones must be turned off?" Everyone's gaze turned toward the back. In the last row, Jiyu Suyang stared in shock at his desk compartment, then incredulously pulled out his phone from beneath a stack of exam papers and quickly turned off the alarm. The homeroom teacher's grim eyes fixed on Jiyu Suyang as he walked step by step toward him. "Hand over the phone, your exam is invalidated." "I wasn't cheating, it was just an alarm," Jiyu Suyang explained with relative calm. But the homeroom teacher didn't believe it at all. "An alarm clock? You knew there was an exam this afternoon, yet you set an alarm for the afternoon. You can check, I didn't cheat, and I've already finished." Jiyu Suyang handed both the exam paper and his phone to the homeroom teacher. The paper was densely covered with writing. "What are you looking at? Turn around and focus on your own test." The homeroom teacher casually flipped through the paper, her tone dismissive. "It doesn't matter anyway. The phone rang, so that's cheating." I repeatedly emphasized before the exam that phones are not allowed in the exam room. "This paper will be marked as 0. After saying that, she took the paper and the phone back to the podium, wrote a large 0 on Jiyu Suyang's neatly written exam paper, and tossed it onto the desk. She then added, "As for the cheater, don't just sit there. Go stand outside." The class was distracted by this commotion, with a few students whispering among themselves, "What are you all doing? If I hear one more word, you'll get a 0 just like Jiyu Suyang." The homeroom teacher scolded sharply, "It's bad enough that your grades are poor, but to engage in such underhanded tricks, aren't you ashamed?" Scolded by the homeroom teacher, the classroom fell silent once again. Jiyu Suyang quietly walked out of the classroom. As he passed by me, he glanced sideways in my direction. I pretended to look at him with concern, but his expression remained calm, his eyes steady and unreadable. However, when he looked at me, there was a faint, almost imperceptible chill in his gaze. I lowered my head and continued working on my exam paper. I had to admit, Jiyu Suyang was quite accurate in predicting the test questions. The moment the bell rang, the homeroom teacher collected the exam papers, and the classroom instantly erupted in chaos. No way, did Jiyu Shan really cheat? Impossible, it must be the old witch targeting him. Why would he ever need to cheat? Even my best friend Lin Yin came over worriedly. Shia, what's going on with Jiyu Suyang? He didn't really cheat, did he?" I walked back to my seat and said lightly, "How would I know? Weren't you the one who cared most about Ji Soo-young before? He's been called to the office by the old witch. Aren't you worried?" I smiled and said, "No, I'm not worried. He'll definitely be fine." Lin Yin gave me a strange look, then turned to discuss with someone else. I went out with my water bottle to get some water and saw a crowd gathered at the homeroom teacher's office door. Most of them were girls. Probably all there to show concern for Ji Soo-young. I heard Ji Soo-young cheated. No way, his grades have always been great. Who knows, maybe his previous good results were also achieved through cheating. Where there are people, there is gossip, and where there is gossip, there are rumors. In less than half an hour, the claim that Ji Soo-young's previous grades were all obtained through cheating had already spread throughout the school. The hallway was filled with classmates discussing him. And in the office, the homeroom teacher was pointing at Ji Soo-young's nose, yelling so loudly that it could be clearly heard outside. Ji Soo-young remained silent, his expression cold, standing perfectly straight. I watched his back and sneered coldly. So what if something happened? It's just a monthly exam. I returned to my seat, and Xiao Chen in the front row was still arguing with others. How could my buddy Ji cheat? The questions he explained to me. Which of you could solve them? I placed the cup of water I had filled for Ji Soo-young on his desk and, out of habit, tidied up his books. Sis Xia, you're still the one who treats my brother Ji the best. Xiao Chen turned around gloomily, having just lost the argument. Why would brother Ji suddenly set an afternoon alarm? He's not the type to be so careless. Yeah, someone as meticulous as Ji Soo-young. How could he leave his phone in the desk drawer? And his phone doesn't even have a password set. Seeing that I hadn't spoken for a while, Xiao Chen waved his hand in front of my eyes. Sis Xia, what are you thinking about? You should believe in brother Ji, right? After all, you like him so much. I smiled and said, yeah. Xiao Chen turned his head away with ease, not noticing the coldness in my eyes. Of course. I like Ji Soo-young. Not just like, I love him. How can it be called love if he hasn't experienced everything I've endured, if he hasn't suffered the pain I've suffered? This is only the beginning. I want him to suffer just as I have. It wasn't until near the end of the school day that Ji Soo-young returned to the classroom. As soon as he entered, he caught everyone's attention. His face was downcast, looking somewhat dejected. Without saying a word, he went back to his seat and took out his test papers to continue working on problems. Xiao Chen glanced back at him several times, hesitating to speak. Suddenly, a small note was tossed over. It read, Sister Xia. Ask Ji what's wrong. Show him some concern and win him over while he's vulnerable. Watching Xiao Chen turn around with that sneaky, shifty look, I really wanted to kick him. But considering he's my silly little brother, I still turned my head and pretended to show concern. Ji Soo-young, are you okay? As soon as I said that, I couldn't help but think of that advertising slogan. Are you okay? Are you okay? If you're okay, have some liuliame. I almost couldn't hold back a laugh. Ji Soo-young looked up at me, his dark eyes behind the lenses seeming to see right through me. I could sense some anger in him, along with a probing curiosity, and even a faint sense of pressure that almost made me feel guilty. But that shouldn't be the case. Even if he remembered he hadn't set an alarm, he shouldn't suspect me. After a long moment, he lowered his gaze, sighed quietly, and when he spoke again, his tone had returned to its usual coolness. Did you solve the last math problem? I was a bit surprised. Are you okay? This wasn't a sarcastic remark, but a sudden genuine concern I felt. I was actually a little worried about him. Ji Soo-young lowered his gaze, looking somewhat dejected. It's fine, I brought it on myself. He didn't elaborate and changed the subject. You probably solved most of the math problems this time, right? His attitude left me somewhat puzzled, and I nodded blankly. Ji Soo-young didn't seem to be affected by the cheating scandal at all. He continued to tutor me every day as usual, organize my mistakes, and supervise my homework and memorization. Rumors were flying everywhere outside. Although some people defended him by saying it was just an alarm going off, not many believed it. Yet Ji Soo-young, at the center of the rumors, acted as if nothing had happened. After class that day, while I was working on a test paper, Xiao Chen turned around and said mysteriously, Sis Xia, did you know, Brother Gu was framed for cheating. I was calculating physics problems on scratch paper and replied dismissively, "Wasn't it the old witch who framed him?" "No." Xiao Chen's tone was a bit urgent as he leaned closer and whispered, "Everyone in the class is saying that someone secretly tampered with Brother Gu's phone and intentionally set the alarm for him." I was startled, and the pen in my hand made a long mark on the paper. "Where did you hear that? Xie Jie, are you surprised too?" Xiao Chen didn't answer my question and continued, "I don't know who could be so disgusting. If I catch them, I'll definitely give them a beating. It seems they still don't know who did it." I pretended to be surprised. "That can't be right. We're all classmates. Why would anyone want to harm Jiu Xiang, Xie Jie? Don't you know there are plenty of people in our class who can't stand Brother Jiu?" Xiao Chen curled his lip. "Think about it. We all have similar grades. And suddenly a top student transfers in. He gets good grades. The teachers like him. How could he not make people jealous?" Xiao Chen was right. In the second semester of our first year of high school, Jiu Xiang transferred from the elite class to ours. At first, everyone was curious about why he had transferred. And there were many rumors. Some said he had broken school rules and was expelled from the elite class, while others said he was too aloof and unpopular, which was why he ended up in our class. No matter the reason, it didn't change the fact that he was popular. In class, he was the teacher's pet. Always receiving special treatment. After class, he was the object of the girls' admiration, with female students from other classes often coming by just to see him. This led to even more resentment from the boys in our class, and eventually, some conflicts broke out. In the end, Jiu Xiang was fine, but the other boys were all required to write self-criticisms and have their parents called in. This was the privilege of being a top student. As long as your grades were good, it seemed like everything you did was right. Later, for some unknown reason, our homeroom teacher started targeting Jiu Xiang. And he became the first top student our homeroom teacher ever disliked. While I was lost in thought, the test paper in my hand was taken away. Jiu Xiang had returned at some point, holding a red pen and grading quickly. When he reached the last question, his brow furrowed slightly. He read the question carefully twice, then looked up at me with confusion. "This question isn't difficult. Why did you leave it blank?" I shifted the blame to Xiao Chen. "Xiao Chen was chatting with me just now, so I didn't have time to finish it." Jiu Xiang's expression darkened, and he directly kicked the back of Xiao Chen's chair. Xiao Chen jolted from the kick and turned around with a bewildered look. "Brother Jiu, what's wrong?" Jiu Xiang gave him a cold glance and tossed him a vocabulary book. "Memorize this first." Xiao Chen looked at the unfinished test paper in his hand, then at the vocabulary book, and his face fell. The corrected test paper was returned to me, now accompanied by Jiu Xiang's annotations, some reminding me that these were frequently tested points, others noting that this step could be calculated more simply, along with optimal solutions. Seeing these dense annotations, my heart suddenly felt heavy. If Jiu Xiang was willing to put so much effort into tutoring me, it meant he didn't dislike me that much. Then in my past life, what was the deal with the signal source in the card? Could it be that he's also acting with me now? I stole a glance at Jiu Xiang beside me. He took off his glasses, closed his eyes, and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. When he opened his eyes again, they seemed to hold the cool light of the moon. He put his glasses back on and lowered his head to continue working on the test paper. Standing apart from the noisy surroundings, I suddenly felt a bit confused and turned to ask tentatively, "I heard you cheated because someone tampered with your phone." Jiu Xiang paused his pen, looked up, and stared at me with his dark eyes, his expression calm. "Who told you that?" I gave an awkward smile. "Everyone in the class is talking about it." His eyes flickered slightly. "That's not true. Don't overthink it. Focus on solving the problems." When I went to the cafeteria for lunch at noon, I happened to need to use the restroom, so I asked Lin Yin to wait for me outside. Just as I reached the restroom door, I realized I had forgotten to bring tissues. I turned around to ask Lin Yin if she had any, but then I heard her voice. "Why didn't you tell the teacher or the classmates that it was Xu Xie who took your phone and set the alarm?" I froze in shock, and another familiar voice chimed in. "It was Jiu Xiang." I said it wasn't her, it was my own carelessness. It couldn't have been her. Lin Yin's voice sounded agitated. I clearly saw it. Shuxia took your phone and set the alarm. Why are you covering for her? Ji Yuxiang's voice remained calm, yet carried a barely noticeable hint of gloom. I said it wasn't. Besides, Shuxia likes me. Why would she want to harm me? This, Lin Yin stammered. I don't know either, but I really saw it. Maybe she's just using you to tutor her, or maybe she's simply jealous of you. Is that so? Ji Yuxiang's tone rose slightly at the end, pausing for a few seconds before asking seriously, aren't you Shuxia's best friend, instead of worrying about her? You're here trying to persuade me to report her. I just think what she's doing isn't right. I'm worried about you, worried about me. Ji Yuxiang chuckled lightly. Do you like me too? My eyelids twitched, and I held my breath, waiting for Lin Yin's response. Yes, I like you too. The girl's voice was a bit reserved, but every word was clear. I leaned against the wall, feeling completely confused. I never knew that Lin Yin also liked Ji Yuxiang. Ji Yuxiang wasn't surprised at all. As if he had known all along, he pressed on. It's not that you think Shuxia did something wrong. You're just jealous and want to make her life miserable. Lin Yin's voice trembled with a hint of tears, but she clearly made a mistake. Why does she always get your attention? Who said she did anything wrong? Ji Yuxiang's voice suddenly turned cold. I set the phone alarm myself. Also, I know you're the one spreading those rumors in the class. Stop with the underhanded tricks and don't disturb Shuxia's studies. I'm not done with you, Lin Yin cried out. Then, I heard footsteps. Ji Yuxiang must have left. I waited for 2 seconds before pushing the door open and stepping out. Yin, what's wrong? Lin Yin hurriedly wiped away her tears and forced a smile. It's nothing. I just ran into Ji Yuxiang earlier, and she seemed unable to continue, and 2 more tears fell. I sneered inwardly but feigned concern on my face. What happened to him? Did he bully you? I wanted him to tutor me, but he refused. He even said someone like me could never get into college. If I hadn't heard their entire conversation, I might have actually believed her nonsense. How outrageous. I went along with her words. From now on, you can study with me. I'll help you with your lessons. Lin Yin immediately stopped crying and smiled, linking her arm with mine. Really, Xia, you're the best. I calmly withdrew my hand. Sure. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, during my senior year of high school, I also wanted to study hard. But Lin Yin always found various excuses to drag me out to play, chatted with me during class, and discussed Ji Yuxiang with me after school. Later, with only half a year left before the college entrance exam, I made up my mind to study seriously. Even when Lin Yin came looking for me, I no longer paid her any attention. After that, Lin Yin said she wanted to study with me, and I thought she had finally come to her senses. Every time I went to ask Ji Yuxiang questions, I would bring her along, and I shared all my study materials with her. At that time, I believed that as long as we worked hard, we could at least get into college. Now, looking back, it was all just her pretense. The monthly exam results are out, and the ranking list is posted on the small blackboard in the classroom. Many classmates have gathered around it. No way. Did the homeroom teacher really give brother Jiyu a 0? I heard Ji Yuxiang's math paper could have been perfect, but he got a 0 because of cheating. I looked at the ranking list. Even with one subject marked 0, Ji Yuxiang was still the top student in our class. The only thing affected was his grade ranking. This was the first time he had fallen out of the top 10. Ji Yuxiang was also standing next to me, staring at the ranking list with tightly furrowed brows, likely dissatisfied with his own ranking. Why isn't your name on the ranking list? Ji Yuxiang turned and asked me. I was also a bit puzzled and carefully scanned the list from top to bottom again. My name was indeed missing. Just then, someone shouted, Shuxia, the homeroom teacher wants to see you. Ji Yuxiang turned his head and exchanged a glance with me, his eyes filled with concern. As I walked out of the classroom, I overheard people in the hallway gossiping. I heard that in Ji Yuxiang's class, he wasn't the only one cheating. 2 people in one class cheated. How shameless. If you can't get good grades, you have no choice but to cheat, right? As these rumors reached my ears, I began to understand why the homeroom teacher had called me in. Walking into the office, The homeroom teacher was chatting and laughing with other teachers when she saw me come in. Her face immediately darkened. "Don't you know how to knock? No sense of manners at all." "Teacher, I did knock, you just didn't hear it." She gave me a disdainful look and pointed at the test papers on the desk. "Go on, admit your mistake now, and there might still be hope for you." I looked completely bewildered. "Teacher, I don't know what you're talking about." The homeroom teacher slammed the desk heavily, and the top math test paper fell right beside my feet. The score on it was a striking 135, a score I had never achieved in my past life. The homeroom teacher glared at me angrily, still being stubborn. "Tell me, how did you cheat? Are you and Ji Soo-young accomplices?" I picked up the test paper and placed it on the desk. "I earned this score myself." "I didn't cheat, no cheating." The homeroom teacher snorted coldly. "Who would believe that? You were barely passing math before, and now suddenly you score 135. Do you think I'm a fool?" "I really didn't cheat," I said calmly and confidently. "Teacher, do you have any evidence to prove that I cheated?" "Evidence?" The homeroom teacher angrily threw the test paper in my face. "This is the evidence. Tell me, how did you suddenly improve so much? Did you look up answers on your phone? Or did you collude with someone?" Ji Soo-young tutored me. I told the truth. The homeroom teacher completely didn't believe it. "He tutored you? Does he have nothing better to do?" After saying that, she immediately had someone call Ji Soo-young over to confront him. "Let me tell you, it's bad enough that your grades are poor, but resorting to these flashy tricks is utterly disgraceful." She shot me an annoyed glance, sat back down in her chair, picked up her water glass to take a few sips, then looked up and gave me a couple of sidelong glances. I was completely unfazed by her gaze and met her eyes calmly. I wasn't afraid at all, as everything was going according to my plan. I needed a reasonable explanation for my improved grades, and Ji Soo-young was the perfect excuse. The whole class knew and often talked about how a love-struck girl like me had studied desperately hard for the person she liked. Moreover, when Ji Soo-young came in, he was holding a stack of test papers. "Teacher, were you looking for me?" Ji Soo-young's tone was calm. The homeroom teacher put down the water cup and asked with annoyance, "He said you've been tutoring her?" "Yes." The homeroom teacher was somewhat irritated, looking back and forth between us. "You tutor her, and she improves this much. Then what's the point of having me as a teacher?" Ji Soo-young handed a stack of test papers to the homeroom teacher. "These are the extra test papers and mistake notebooks that Shu Xia has been working on recently." The homeroom teacher took them with suspicion and began carefully flipping through them. Ji Soo-young continued to defend me. "Shu Xia has been very diligent lately, full of motivation to study, which is why she has made such great progress." As I looked at the tall, straight-backed young man beside me, my heart suddenly felt a pang of bitterness. Behind these test papers and mistake notebooks lay the countless days and nights of struggle and effort from my previous life. The homeroom teacher flipped through the test papers one by one. Each one had red pen corrections and revisions, and they were covered with sticky notes of key knowledge points. In between were thick stacks of mistake notebooks and study notes. The students watching at the door all gasped in amazement. "Oh my God, this is way too hardcore. I wish I had such a dedicated deskmate too." "What deskmate? This is clearly a mutual effort." Hearing these comments, I stole a glance at Ji Soo-young beside me. His cool, detached face still showed little expression, but the corners of his mouth were slightly upturned. He even secretly lowered his head and chuckled softly before looking up again, returning to his usual aloof demeanor. The homeroom teacher also heard the discussion at the door and looked somewhat embarrassed. She sternly scolded, "What are you all doing at the door? Get back to your classroom," with a bang. The office door was slammed shut, but this couldn't stop the other teachers' gossipy hearts. On the surface, everyone was typing on their computers, but in reality, they were all secretly paying attention to our side. The homeroom teacher threw the test papers in her hand onto the desk and deliberately said with a cold expression, "Although these test papers show that Shu Xia has been very diligent lately, I still have doubts about her grades." "Teacher, you said Shu Xia cheated. Do you have any evidence?" Ji Soo-young directly challenged, his tone firm. "What do you mean? Do I have evidence?" The homeroom teacher was provoked. "Are you the teacher or am I? If I say her grades are problematic, then they are problematic. I looked at the homeroom teacher's arrogant expression and said nothing. She simply wanted to use her authority as a teacher to force us to back down. After all, we had challenged her authority, but I refused to give in to her wishes. I've already shown you my evidence. There's no issue with my grades, I said calmly. Who said there's no problem? The homeroom teacher glanced at me disdainfully. Ji Seong cheated on the exam. And you're his deskmate. Who can guarantee you weren't in on it together? I sneered inwardly. It's the 21st century, and someone is still using collective punishment. Just as I was about to retort, Ji Seong's angry voice cut in first. If I cheated, that's my business. What does it have to do with Shuxia? Is this some ancient collective punishment system? If that's the case, shouldn't the first one to be executed be you, teacher? You, the homeroom teacher stood up in anger, her delicate face contorted. Ji Seong, let me tell you, the school hasn't even disciplined you for cheating yet, and you dare to talk back to a teacher. Do you not want to graduate? If the school knew I was standing up to the teacher just to defend a classmate's innocence, they would probably understand me too. Before Ji Seong could finish speaking, he was interrupted by a test paper thrown at him. The homeroom teacher leaned on the desk, chest heaving, clearly genuinely angered. The moment the test paper was thrown, Ji Seong stepped forward and shielded me. I clearly saw the notebook tucked among the test papers hit him directly on the head, scattering papers and the notebook all over the floor. Ji Seong didn't resist, silently picking up the test papers from the floor one by one and organizing them neatly. For a moment, the office was terrifyingly quiet, and no one dared to speak. The homeroom teacher seemed to realize that their actions had been impulsive. As reason returned, a hint of embarrassment appeared on their face. But they still had no intention of letting us off. All right then. The homeroom teacher softened their tone. I'll give you 2 problems right now. If you can solve them, I'll consider the matter of cheating closed. He never cheated in the first place, so why should he have to prove it? Ji Seong retorted coldly. The homeroom teacher refused to back down. I never said he cheated. I just have doubts about his results. If he can solve these problems, it's not just to give me an explanation, it's to give himself one too. With that statement, I was essentially put on a moral high ground. I pretended to be silent for a moment, then hesitantly nodded. The homeroom teacher smugly tossed me a piece of paper with 2 math problems on it. It didn't seem like much at first glance, but the difficulty was absolutely beyond what a slacker student like me could handle. It was from last year's joint math exam of the 4 major universities from another province. I heard that the average scores for the last 2 questions were only 7 and 3 points, respectively. Go ahead, aren't you pretty impressive? The homeroom teacher leaned back in his chair, crossed his legs, and looked at me disdainfully. Ji Seong also glanced at the problems and immediately spoke up for me. The difficulty of this paper is on a completely different level from our monthly exam. What's wrong with the questions being difficult? The homeroom teacher retorted. Should exams only test easy questions? Are difficult questions not meant to be solved, if you can't solve them? You blame the difficulty. Why not blame your own lack of skill? I tugged at Ji Seong, who was fuming with anger, signaling him to keep quiet. He looked at me with concern, his eyes filled with regret. He had focused on basic training during our tutoring sessions and had hardly explained these highly difficult and flexible final exam questions. I glanced at the questions briefly, picked up my pen, thought for a moment, and began answering. 15 minutes later, I handed the test paper to the homeroom teacher. She was so shocked that she uncrossed her legs, gave me an incredulous look, and then lowered her head to check the answers. Her expression gradually turned serious. I sneered and curled the corner of my mouth, but when I turned my head, I caught Ji Seong's ambiguous gaze fixed on me. Calmly, I averted my eyes. After all, he was no longer of any use to me. The homeroom teacher kept double-checking the answers, unwilling to give up, but eventually had to face the facts. With a somewhat awkward tone, she said, "You did quite well on these 2 questions. You've really made a lot of progress lately." I smiled faintly and replied in a gentle voice, "Teacher, does that mean my grades are fine now?" "Yes, they're fine." The homeroom teacher's voice carried a rare hint of softness, perhaps out of guilt. My expression instantly changed, and my tone turned icy, about the homeroom teacher falsely accusing me of cheating before. Shouldn't there be an explanation? What false accusation? The homeroom teacher turned away awkwardly. I was just questioning your grades to maintain the fairness of the exam. Questioning. I stared at her intently, my expression grave, removing my grades from the ranking list before any conclusion was reached. Is that what you call questioning? I don't need anything else. Just an apology in front of the whole class, telling everyone that I didn't cheat. Other teachers in the same office couldn't stand it anymore and stepped in to mediate. Teacher Lee, this time the student was truly wronged. Just clarify it in class, and that should be enough. The homeroom teacher's face instantly turned pale, glaring at me fiercely. Ji Suyang and I walked out of the office. He looked ahead, his tone somewhat low. How did you manage to solve those two problems? I saw similar types of questions in an extracurricular tutoring book before. I gave the excuse I had prepared in advance. Which book? Let me see it. He stopped walking and stared at me. I forgot. I met his gaze, answered casually, and then continued walking forward, ignoring Ji Suyang behind me. Back in the classroom, the homeroom teacher walked in holding the ranking list, cleared her throat uncomfortably, and said, there was a small issue with this ranking list. Shu Xia's name was accidentally left off. It's been fixed now. She glanced at me guiltily and posted the reprinted score sheet on the wall. Immediately, some students started whispering below. I heard Shu Xia ranked second in the class this time. Ji Suyang's tutoring really worked wonders for her. Hearing the chatter, the homeroom teacher chimed in. Shu Xia has indeed made significant progress this time. Everyone should learn from her. Although it sounded like praise, her tone still carried a hint of disdain. I stood up and calmly said, it's not the report card that's the problem. It's you, teacher, falsely accusing me of cheating without any reason. The homeroom teacher didn't expect me to expose her in class and felt embarrassed. It's because your grades improved too much. Not just me, but other subject teachers also had doubts. So I know. I interrupted her. Since the matter has been cleared up and you know I didn't cheat, shouldn't you apologize to me? The homeroom teacher, feeling humiliated by my words, became angry out of embarrassment. Shu Xia, are you the teacher, or am I? This is outrageous. Do you think just because Ji Suyang is tutoring you, you can get into college? Let me tell you, you're dreaming. People like you will never get into college. You'll end up working in a factory for the rest of your life. With that, she threw the test paper onto the desk and walked away. Watching her retreating figure, my heart ached with bitterness. The reason I insisted on an apology was that I truly despise cheating, and I hate even more being falsely accused of it. In my previous life, it was because I was wrongly accused of cheating that my life was completely ruined. In this life, I've paid them back in their own coin, but that doesn't mean I have to endure such injustice again. At that moment, Xiao Chen turned around to comfort me, saying, Sis Xia, don't pay any attention to that old witch. I'm sure you'll get into university. I smiled bitterly and asked him in return, what about you? Aren't you angry that she said those things about you? There's nothing to be angry about. Xiao Chen lowered his head, somewhat dejected. What she said is true. With grades like ours, we really can't get into university. I silently tightened my grip on the pen in my hand, wanting to tell him, that's not true. As long as we work hard, we can definitely get in. But the words reached my lips, only to be swallowed back. The reason I've made such significant progress in such a short time is that, unbeknownst to them, I've been studying for 4 years. I am the only one here who has truly experienced life at the bottom. Clocking in at 7 a.m. Standing all day, mechanically repeating tasks day after day, with a life that seemed endless, dark, and utterly hopeless. But even that kind of life, I only endured for a month. Later, when that factory shut down, I spent 4 years working as a server. The difference was, after work, I would always turn on my computer to take online classes. I enrolled in high school senior year courses for 4 consecutive years. When I wasn't in class, I would watch free instructional videos, learning from scratch, constantly doing practice problems, seeking help from teachers, and reinforcing my knowledge. I'm not a genius. Every day and night, every early morning, It was test papers and vocabulary words that kept me company. I often woke up in the middle of the night, looking at the half-finished test papers, my heart filled with panic. I have only one dream: to retake the college entrance exam and surpass Jiu Seong. In my previous life, he got into the best medical university, so I want to go to Peking University. After the homeroom teacher left in anger, the classroom became much quieter. Some students were whispering and discussing questions. And Xiao Chen also turned around to ask me a few questions. I was feeling a bit down and silently continued working on my test paper. "What are you thinking about?" I ignored the person next to me and kept working on the questions. Suddenly, the pen in my hand was snatched away. The interruption made me instantly furious. "Are you crazy, Jiu Seong?" He froze for a moment, then lowered his head and couldn't help but laugh. I was so angry that I slapped the test paper right onto him. "Are you out of your mind?" He took the test paper with good temper, then suddenly raised his hand, tentatively wanting to pat my head, but hesitated and put it down. "I just haven't seen you lose your temper in a long time, and it's actually quite cute." I frowned at him. Is this guy a masochist? Losing my temper and he still thinks I'm cute. So the reason I didn't manage to win him over in my past life was because I wasn't violent enough. He reined in his smile, his expression gentle. "If you're feeling upset, don't force yourself to do test papers. It won't be effective. Try memorizing some vocabulary instead. Maybe you'll fall asleep after a while. Consider it a way to hypnotize yourself." I took the vocabulary notebook he handed me without saying a word. He went out to get water with a cup, and Xiao Chen immediately turned around with a gossipy expression. "Sister Xia, Brother Jiu went to get water for you." I propped my head up and glanced to the side. Only then realizing he had taken my water cup. "Sister Xia, don't you think Brother Jiu is getting more and more enthusiastic toward you?" Xiao Chen said with a confident look. "I think Brother Jiu must be getting anxious." I raised an eyebrow, signaling for him to continue. "Think about it, Sister Xia. You ranked second in the class and made it into the top 100 in the grade for this monthly exam. You're definitely going to be transferred to the elite class. Brother Jiu just can't bear to see you leave," Xiao Chen analyzed. "And according to the school rules, students in the top 100 of the grade can enter the elite class. I bet the head teacher will come to talk to you in a couple of days." I hadn't known about this rule before. So the competition for spots in the elite class is that intense. What's strange is, Jiu Seong's grades are so good. Why did he transfer out of the elite class back then? And why hasn't he gone back, Sister Xia? "Are you going to the elite class?" Xiao Chen asked with some concern. "I don't think so. Of course I'll go. The advanced class has better teachers. Why wouldn't I go? Won't you miss Brother Jiu?" I was about to shake my head, but afraid of breaking my love-struck persona, I simply stayed silent. A few days later, the school held a mobilization meeting for the senior year. The homeroom teacher walked into the classroom and gave me a cold glance. "In this afternoon's meeting, Shu Xia from our class will receive the school's progress award." As soon as the words fell, Xiao Chen started clapping, and the other students followed suit. The homeroom teacher shot Xiao Chen a glance and said in a light tone, "It's just a progress award, Shu Xia. You still need to work harder. Your current results don't mean much. Everything depends on the college entrance exam. Only the scores from the college entrance exam truly matter." After subtly criticizing me, she finally began the lesson. "I think you're already doing great, and you'll definitely do well in the college entrance exam too." A cool yet encouraging voice sounded beside my ear. I turned my head and saw Jiu Seong's fair neck leaning close, his ears slightly red, noticing my gaze. He turned to me with a doting look in his eyes and said, "You can do it, I believe in you." That small encouragement made my heart skip a beat. It proved that even after living a few extra years, I could still be captivated by his unintentional tenderness. Just then, I saw Lin Yin in the front row turn around. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness as she looked at Jiu Seong, and there was a hint of gloom when she glanced at me. But the moment our eyes met, she immediately switched to a sweet smile. Watching her retreating figure, my feelings were a tangled mess. In the afternoon, we lined up to attend the mobilization assembly. As we reached the entrance of the venue, we happened to run into the top class's line. Even though our class was in front, the The students from the top class continued to push forward without regard for order. Someone in our class couldn't help but speak up in defense. "Wait a moment, let our class go in first." A girl from the top class glanced at us and said disdainfully to her companion, "They're from the lower class, ignore them, let's go first. Hurry up and take your seats, we haven't finished today's math test yet." Hearing this, our classmates were not to be outdone. One by one, they blocked the entrance, refusing to let them in. The small doorway was completely jammed. "What's going on here? What kind of behavior is this? Blocking the entrance like this?" The homeroom teacher's voice came from behind us. Standing beside her was another teacher who looked gentle and composed. Those top students from the advanced class immediately complained to the teacher upon seeing her. "Teacher, it's all their fault for blocking the door and preventing us from entering." Before we even had a chance to explain, they had already shifted the blame onto us. Our homeroom teacher put on a flattering smile and said to the teacher beside her, "Ms. Chen, I'm sorry, it's our class's students who don't know any better. I'll have them step aside so your class can go in first." Upon hearing this, the students from the advanced class glanced at us with contempt and stood coldly to the side, waiting for us to make way. Watching our homeroom teacher's hypocritical and ingratiating expression felt like a slap in the face to our entire class. Xiao Chen couldn't stand it anymore and stepped forward. "Why should we? Our team came first and was lined up properly. Why should they cut in line?" I saw Teacher Chen's face instantly turn cold as he gave the homeroom teacher a faint glance. The homeroom teacher immediately scolded Xiao Chen obsequiously. "What are you talking about? Step aside, their time is precious. Don't waste it. Is their time precious? But ours isn't," Xiao Chen shouted angrily. And the students behind him couldn't help but nod in agreement. The girls from the top class, waiting nearby, huddled together and whispered, "They're not going to get into college anyway. So wasting time doesn't matter." Exactly. With this time, I could have finished a math problem. I cursed under my breath, "What bad luck," and was about to step forward to argue when Xiao Chen pulled me back. "Sister Xia, don't stoop to their level. You're here to receive the Progress Award. Don't let them delay you." He turned and shouted at the girls from the advanced class, "Our sister Xia is receiving the Progress Award. Do any of you have that? How can you block the way and delay others from receiving their awards? Aren't you ashamed?" The girls looked embarrassed and glanced awkwardly at Teacher Chen. Teacher Chen adjusted his glasses and gave a fake smile. "So, a student is receiving the Progress Award. Congratulations, let them go in first." After saying this, he gave the homeroom teacher a meaningful look, to which the homeroom teacher responded with an awkward, obsequious smile and a nod. The student blocking the door stepped aside, but still muttered defiantly, "Ha, it's just a Progress Award, what's the big deal?" Exactly. Isn't the Progress Award just a consolation prize for students in the underperforming class? I heard that Xu Xia used to fail math exams. No wonder she got the Progress Award. That's probably the only kind of award their class can get anyway. Our classmates were provoked by their remarks and started arguing on the spot. "What did you just say? Say that again. So what if you can't get into college? What's it to you?" More and more students gathered at the door, and the noise of the argument nearly lifted the roof. "Stop arguing," the homeroom teacher yelled, successfully taking control of the situation. She was panting heavily, glaring at us with her neck stiff. "What's wrong with what they said? You were never going to get into college anyway." These words felt like a sharp knife, piercing everyone's hearts. The clear sounds of mockery and gossip were like tiny ants crawling under the skin, making everyone feel deeply uncomfortable. Everyone lowered their heads in embarrassment, and Xiao Chen also wilted, reluctantly taking 2 steps back. Our classmates collectively moved aside and stopped arguing. The students from the elite class walked past with their heads held high, like victorious generals. Just as they were lining up to enter, Jiyu Suyang, who had been silent all along, suddenly spoke up. "So what if it's a lower-tier class? Isn't the top student in the grade still in our class?" Our classmates instantly cheered and laughed mockingly without holding back. The elite class students' expressions changed, and someone retorted, "How dare you say that? Everyone knows you cheated." My heart sank. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have set that alarm in the first place. No matter what, I should have let Ji Seong finish showing off. Ji Seong let out a light hum. Completely unfazed. Cheating. It was just an alarm going off by accident. Besides, even if my math score is counted as 0, not a single person in your elite class has a higher total score than me, right? And you call yourselves the elite class, can't even beat a transfer student from our so-called slacker class. How laughable. Ji Seong's words were quite polite, but Xiao Chen rudely added, trash. Ji Seong smiled faintly and took the lead, walking straight in. Xiao Chen followed, whistling casually, while the rest of our class walked with their heads held high, muttering under their breath, "That's right, first place still belongs to our class. God Gu crushes the elite class." After the mobilization meeting, everyone returned with triumphant smiles on their faces, mainly because Ji Seong's show-off was so successful that it left the elite class speechless with anger. If only our classmates were more eloquent. They would have loved to have a couple of people following him and showering him with flattering praise. Xiao Chen walked beside me, chattering non-stop about how amazing Ji Seong was. Although his constant talking gave me a bit of a headache, I couldn't help but laugh. As soon as the meeting ended, Ji Seong was called out by the teacher. When we came out, we happened to see the homeroom teacher pointing at him and scolding him, but he just leaned lazily against the wall. When he saw us, he gave a slight smirk, which made Xiao Chen scream, "Oh my god, brother Gu is just too handsome. I'll always be his diehard fan. This silly kid is completely infatuated with Ji Seong." Xia Jie, let me tell you something. Do you know why brother Gu was expelled from the elite class back then? Xiao Chen asked mysteriously. I shook my head, somewhat uninterested. Because brother Gu reported a teacher from the elite class under his real name. That teacher was leaking Olympiad math problems to them. Xiao Chen lowered his voice. It was for that Olympiad competition that gives bonus points for college entrance exams. Brother Gu said it was unfair, too unfair to other students taking the college entrance exams, so he reported it. Later, that teacher resigned. I was taken aback. Is Ji Seong really such an upright person? Xiao Chen nodded without hesitation, confirming my thoughts. After returning to my seat, I fell into deep thought. The Ji Seong after the rebirth was becoming more and more incomprehensible to me. If he truly was such a principled person, willing to expose injustice, why would he give me a hairpin with a signal source? How could someone who risks being expelled to uphold fairness also engage in framing others? Moreover, judging by his attitude recently, he clearly doesn't despise me that much. Just as I was lost in thought, the homeroom teacher came in and called me to the study room. She smiled warmly, completely different from before. In the study room, that teacher Chen was also there. "Hello, congratulations on your significant improvement in this exam." Teacher Chen spoke gently. I nodded slightly, unable to develop any fondness for him. His attitude at the entrance of the venue earlier had been quite unpleasant. Sure enough, his next words were far from kind. Although there was some unpleasantness with your classmates at the venue earlier, some of what they said wasn't wrong. Academic performance is what matters most. If you can join our elite class, try to avoid interacting with your former classmates as much as possible. One takes on the color of one's company. I believe someone as smart as you can understand what I mean. From the moment he opened his mouth, he was defending his own students, completely ignoring their verbal insults toward us. And his tone was filled with disdain for underachieving students. I smiled faintly and said, "Indeed, one takes on the color of one's company, so I think it's better for me to stay in my original class. After all, my deskmate, Ji Seong, is the top student in our grade." Teacher Chen's expression immediately changed, and he averted his eyes. "Shuxia, what's wrong with you? How can you speak like that?" The homeroom teacher quickly apologized to Teacher Chen. "I'm sorry, Teacher Chen. Our student doesn't know any better." Teacher Chen lowered his head and chuckled lightly. "It's fine, no problem. But poor grades are a small matter. Poor character is a big issue. You still need to teach them well." After saying that, he stood up and left. The homeroom teacher followed behind him, constantly apologizing. The moment he stepped out of the room, I said to his back with firm conviction, "We have poor character. Are the students in your elite class any better?" aside from grades. You have nothing to offer. He turned around, a calm smile on his face, but his eyes were filled with familiar disdain. But we can all get into college. I silently watched his retreating figure when suddenly, the sound of an argument came from outside the door. I walked out and found my classmates gathered at the entrance, their faces filled with anger. Xiao Chen even went so far as to make a bold statement. Who says we can't get into college? If you can do it, so can we. Teacher Chen raised his head slightly. Then I'll be watching with anticipation. After returning to the classroom, the atmosphere was somewhat gloomy. Everyone had lost their previous cheerfulness and laughter, each bowing their heads to write their exam papers. When the homeroom teacher came in, he threw his lecture notes onto the desk, looked at us, and said in a disappointed tone, "I'm so disappointed in you." No one in the class responded, and very few even looked up. "I'm talking to you. Have you all lost your tongues?" The homeroom teacher roared. "Fine, very good. I can't stand being your homeroom teacher for even one more day. You've truly embarrassed me. Aren't you ashamed?" Ji Suyang suddenly looked up, staring at her with a gaze full of pressure. "We're ashamed of you too." Xiao Chen in the front row nodded heavily, and many classmates quietly agreed. The homeroom teacher was left speechless, and after a long pause, finally managed to say, "You're not doing well academically yourselves, and you won't let others point it out." This sentence was like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the fighting spirit that had just ignited among everyone, and their momentum weakened again. I stood up and encouraged everyone. As long as we work hard, our grades will improve eventually. The homeroom teacher sneered coldly. "Fine, if you can make it into the top 3 of the grade in this midterm exam. I'll go to the principal myself and resign as your homeroom teacher. But if you don't make it," he narrowed his eyes and scanned the entire class, pointing at us and shouting, "Every single one of you will go and apologize to the top class." After the bet with the homeroom teacher was made, the learning atmosphere in the class reached an unprecedented high. Teachers of other subjects also spared no effort in helping us. And the office after class was crowded with students from our class asking questions. They all praised us for making gradual progress. Only the homeroom teacher continued to mock us sarcastically. As a result, all the math-related questions were left to Ji Suyang and me during self-study class. I watched Ji Suyang explaining problems to the students on the podium and found myself lost in thought. I thought he would be impatient, but he wasn't. Instead, he patiently explained to each person, drawing inferences from one example, and even made a point of highlighting key concepts. After class, walking through the hallway by our classroom felt like stepping into an elite class. Everyone walked with a sense of urgency, even rushing to the restroom. Everyone was pushing themselves hard, striving to prove their worth. "Xie Jie, how do you solve this problem?" Xiao Chen turned around to ask. Lately, he had truly been putting in the effort. Even English, which used to give him the biggest headache, he now patiently memorized. If he felt sleepy in class, he would go out to wash his face and come back to continue listening. He also arrived very early in the morning, not to play games, but to memorize a few more ancient poems and useful phrases. I teased him with a smile. "Xiao Chen, you've been studying so hard lately. Did the old witch really light a fire under you?" His deskmate teased from the side. "What are you talking about, Sister Xia? He already has someone he likes." I froze in place, suddenly remembering the girl from my past life who had given Xiao Chen flowers and car keys. Xiao Chen laughed and punched his deskmate, his face slightly red. It seemed to be true. "Which girl is it?" I asked curiously. Xiao Chen grinned sheepishly. "She's from the honors class. I'll introduce you to her next time." No wonder he's suddenly so eager to study. I nodded and began explaining the problem to him. When I went to get water after class, I saw Xiao Chen talking to a girl with a flushed face. The girl standing opposite him had a sweet smile, with shallow dimples at the corners of her mouth. After Xiao Chen entered the classroom, the girl noticed me too. She waved at me gently, her smile just as warm as the first time I saw her in my previous life. After all the twists and turns, Xiao Chen still ended up falling for her. "Hello, Sister Xia, I'm Shen Qian." She greeted me warmly. I smiled in response, but the scene from my past life involuntarily surfaced in my mind. her tearfully returning the keys and flowers to Xiao Chen. Shen Qian. Xiao Chen has been working really hard lately, and his grades are improving. Just give him a bit more time. He's trying to get closer to you. I couldn't help but speak up. My tone filled with a motherly concern that even I found a bit preachy. Shen Qian was taken aback for a moment, then lowered her head and smiled. I think Xiao Chen is great, honestly. Whether his grades are good or not isn't an issue for me at all. It's not his grades that I like. The little girl's eyes were full of laughter, and it was clear that she was speaking from the heart. She had never looked down on Xiao Chen, but that was precisely the most regrettable part. My expression turned somewhat sorrowful. I know, but you will face many obstacles in the future. But that's a matter for the future. She lifted her head, her gaze firm. Right now, we are doing well, aren't we? Besides, Xiao Chen is working hard to improve. No one knows what the future holds. Her words instantly dispelled the gloom in my heart. Yes, the events of this life are completely different from those of the previous one, and no one knows what the future will bring. She took out a notebook and handed it to me. These are the key points I compiled for Xiao Chen. As for the math notes Jiyu Suyang gave you earlier, I had him return them to you. It's fine. No need to return them. After all, they were just Jiyu Suyang's notes from his sophomore year, and he doesn't need them anymore. I said casually. In truth, I had tossed the notes Jiyu Suyang gave me to Xiao Chen the very next day without even looking at them carefully, but Shen Qian paused for a moment, hesitating before she spoke. But Jiyu Suyang was already studying sophomore and junior year material back in his freshman year. Those notes were very detailed, almost as if they were specifically compiled for someone with a weak foundation. Very targeted. I was a bit surprised and murmured, "Is that so?" Shen Qian suddenly leaned in closer, her face showing a bit of hesitation. "Did you and Jiyu Suyang have a disagreement? I feel like he really cares about you. But you don't seem to like him as much as Xiao Chen said." I shrugged it off. "No, he's just tutoring me, that's all." Shen Qian smiled mysteriously. "Absolutely not. I've seen that notebook. It definitely wasn't written in our second year of high school. It looks more like it was recently organized. With Jiyu Suyang's personality, if he didn't like someone, he would never go to such lengths to tutor them. And that day when I passed by your classroom, I saw you asleep on the desk with the sunlight shining on you. Jiyu Suyang picked up a book to block the light for you. The way he looked at you was exactly the same as how Xiao Chen looks at me. It's pure affection." Her words left me feeling a bit flustered, even a little exposed. In truth, I had vaguely sensed all these things she mentioned, but I had always chosen to turn a blind eye to them. Or rather, deliberately numb myself. She continued. "I don't know what misunderstanding there is between you, but I think Jiyu Suyang is a very good person. In our first year of high school, he was also a participant in the math Olympiad. As long as he didn't report that teacher, he could have gotten extra points by using the leaked questions. But he gave up the benefits he could have gained, all for the sake of fairness. For those of us who had no chance of getting extra points, he was practically a hero." I looked at the admiration in Shen Qian's eyes and fell silent. In everyone's eyes, Jiyu Suyang was a righteous hero. So why did he become the enemy who ruined my life in my eyes? Returning to my seat, I handed the notebook to Xiao Chen. He turned around with a constipated expression on his face. "Sis Xia, I think I've made Brother Jiyu angry." I raised an eyebrow. Jiyu Suyang could actually get angry. That's rare. I just returned the notebook to Brother Jiyu, and he asked me how I had it. I said you lent it to me. Then he asked when you lent it to me, and I told him the truth. As a result, Brother Jiyu got angry on the spot, his face as dark as the bottom of a pot. Xiao Chen's voice grew lower and lower. My eyelid twitched, and I had a bad feeling. I turned to look at Jiyu Suyang. He was silently working on his test paper, the atmosphere around him frighteningly tense. I was about to explain when he suddenly handed me a test paper. I silently took it, but the more I worked on it, the more something felt off. This paper was way too difficult. It was full of various flexible and calculation-heavy questions, even mixed with a few Olympiad math problems. Just one question took me nearly 15 minutes. I gritted my teeth. Jiyu Suyang's way of showing anger was just too unique. I patiently continued with my work when suddenly, he handed over another notebook. His cool voice sounded, This is a summary of problem-solving methods for major questions. I spent a long time compiling it. Don't just casually give it to someone else again. Feeling awkward, I took the notebook and flipped through a couple of pages. Sure enough, it was filled with analyses of tricky and creatively designed difficult problems. My face grew warm, and I said softly, thank you. Focus on your work. His voice remained even, showing no trace of emotion. Class time always seemed to fly by, and with everyone in the class striving toward the same goal. The days passed in a blur of endless test papers, recitations, and dictations. During the midterm exam period, our class was at its quietest. Even during the noon break, the classroom was filled with the sounds of reviewing and discussing questions. Those words of humiliation and mockery were like a tightly drawn string, constantly reminding us that we couldn't afford to lose. Finally, when the bell rang at the end of the English exam, that string snapped. Holy crap. This is the first time I've ever finished writing an entire English essay. What's that compared to me? I actually managed to write the first part of the last math problem. I felt so awesome flipping through the exam papers. Some girls were even moved to tears. This is the first time I've felt so involved and completed all the exam papers. Even when I was sleeping yesterday, I was reciting English vocabulary in my head. Watching them cry and laugh, I couldn't help but smile. Just then, Lin Yin walked over, linking her arm with mine. Xia, you must have done really well on this exam, right? I'm so envious of you. Not only are your grades excellent, but Jiyu Suyang likes you so much too. I found it a bit strange. How do you know Jiyu Suyang likes me? She avoided my gaze. He's been tutoring you with so much dedication. He must like you. I thought she was acting a bit odd, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong, so I didn't press further. On the day the results came out, everyone in our class was buzzing with excitement, their faces lit up with unprecedented enthusiasm. Wow, I moved up more than 50 places in the rankings this time. Our class average must have gone up. I actually made it into the top 200 in the grade. I never even dared to think about that before. I was swept up in everyone's excitement, a smile spreading across my face. But when my gaze fell on the name next to mine on the ranking list, the smile instantly froze. My math score was clearly marked as 0. What's going on? How could Sister Xia get a 0? Xiao Chen was even more anxious than I was, pointing at the ranking list and shouting, "It must be that old witch is doing." Jiyu Suyang immediately stood up as well, grabbing my wrist and pulling me toward the office. "Come on, let's go ask her directly. She must have done it on purpose. I'll help you get justice." In the hallway, people were already gossiping, and their voices drifted into my ears. "Did you know, Xia got 0 points again this time? She must be dragging their class down. First Jiyu Suyang cheated, and now Xia is cheating too. Their class is hopeless. They'll have to apologize to the elite class soon." How satisfying. I followed Jiyu Suyang in a daze, my mind a complete mess. This feeling of being at a loss was exactly the same as when I was caught cheating during the college entrance exam in my previous life. Utterly clueless, I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I couldn't afford to panic like I did back then. In the office, the homeroom teacher looked at us as we entered, her expression saying, "I knew this would happen." She shook the crumpled paper in her hand and threw it in front of me. "Go on, admit it now. And you might get a lighter punishment. The handwriting on that paper ball is indeed mine." It was the solution steps and key points I wrote while explaining a difficult problem to Lin Yin the day before the exam. I wrote this, but I didn't bring it into the exam hall. I picked up the paper ball and said calmly. Moreover, I didn't bring my pencil case into the exam hall at all. I only brought the necessary exam tools. My pencil case has been in my backpack the whole time. And my backpack was in the locker outside the exam hall. The homeroom teacher froze in place, eyeing me suspiciously. Normally, school exams aren't as strict as the college entrance exam, and most people bring their pencil cases into the exam hall, but I'm different. The trauma of being caught cheating in my past life has become a conditioned reflex. For any exam, aside from the essential 2B pencils, pens, and erasers, I never bring anything extra. I'm going to check the surveillance footage. If I find your pencil case in the exam hall, your grade for this subject will be 0 forever. The homeroom teacher clearly didn't believe me and left with a harsh threat to review the footage. Stepping out of the office, Ji Yu-seong's face was as dark as storm clouds. It was Lin Yin who did it, wasn't it? I remained silent. I already had the answer in my heart, but I still needed evidence. Just then, Lin Yin rushed over, her face full of anxiety. She grabbed my hand and apologized. "I'm sorry. Xia, I really don't know what happened. Maybe the paper ball you gave me accidentally fell on the floor and someone else picked it up, and that's how the teacher found it as evidence. I'm sorry. I'll go explain to the teacher right now." Her eyes were brimming with tears, filled with remorse, as if she truly blamed herself for her carelessness, but I felt nothing inside, not even a ripple. In fact, I was disgusted. She knew perfectly well that the homeroom teacher had it out for me. Even if she went to explain, it would only solidify the accusation that I cheated. She had schemed meticulously, but she never expected that, because of the shadows from my past life, I hadn't brought my pencil case into the exam hall at all. I went along with her words and pretended to forgive her. "It's okay. The homeroom teacher has already gone to check the surveillance footage. It was just a misunderstanding, and it's good to get it cleared up." Lin Yin's tear-stained face instantly froze. She paused for a few seconds before forcing a smile and saying, "That's really great." Seeing the barely concealed resentment in her eyes, I suddenly smiled. The real show was just beginning. When I returned to the classroom, everyone gathered around to show their concern. "Xia, how did it go? Was it the old witch deliberately giving you a hard time?" "Don't worry, we all know your abilities. It must have been her playing tricks." I reassured everyone, "It's fine, just a misunderstanding. Once we check the surveillance footage, it'll be cleared up." After sitting back down, Ji Yu-seong asked, "Why didn't you expose her?" I smiled faintly and said, "The best way to get back at someone is to let them lower their guard first. It's not the right time yet." Ji Yu-seong didn't press further, just lowered his head in silence, the tips of his ears slightly red. I didn't notice his unusual reaction, still pondering Lin Yin's motive for harming me. But no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't figure it out, so I decided to set it aside for now. Later, the homeroom teacher checked the surveillance footage and, with a grim expression, revised the ranking list. The footage clearly showed that I had only brought my exam tools into the testing room, and my pencil case had remained in the storage locker the entire time. My math score was restored to normal, and our class's average score ended up exactly at third place in the grade level. When Xiao Chen brought back the news, he couldn't help but complain about the homeroom teacher. She must have deliberately accused Sister Xia of cheating to make our class's average score fall short, but with Sister Xia's score added, we ended up exactly in third place. Her face turned green with anger. Everyone chimed in agreement, but Lin Yin stared at the ranking list with a gloomy expression. Soon after, the school approved the homeroom teacher's request and assigned a new homeroom teacher, our Chinese teacher, a kind and amiable elderly lady who was about to retire but still cared deeply for every student. The day she became our homeroom teacher, the whole class cheered, instead of scolding us for being noisy. Like the previous teacher, she waited with a smile for us to quiet down, then wrote a line on the blackboard, "Youth aspiring to rise can ride the wind and waves. May all things go as you wish." Those words were written with vigorous and unrestrained strokes. She looked at us, her eyes full of tenderness. "Classmates, the college entrance exam won't determine your entire life, but it can give you more choices. I hope you can go to different cities, see different scenery, and become the person you want to be. Now, write down the university you want to attend and stick it on the corner of your desk as your goal." She gave each of us a sticky note. Holding the pen, I originally intended to write Peking University. That was my obsession from my past life, but after hesitating for a few seconds, I still wrote, "The best normal university in the country." The hardships of my past life made me understand that rather than surpassing Ji Yu-seong, I wanted more to become someone like our Chinese teacher. Someone who could bring a little light to those overlooked underachieving students. After writing, I glanced at Ji Yu-seong's sticky note. He had still written top medical school. Just like in my past life, everyone's dreams were put down on paper and planted in their hearts. The days that followed passed by in a blur, And the academic atmosphere in the class grew increasingly intense. Even during breaks, no one chatted idly, they were either solving problems or discussing them. Lin Yin also became much more subdued, no longer causing trouble, though occasionally, her gaze still held a hint of barely noticeable jealousy. Ji Suyang continued to supervise my studies every day, even taking charge of my breakfast. Every morning, there would always be warm milk and a sandwich in my desk drawer, sometimes even my favorite red bean buns. Occasionally, I wondered if what Shen Qian said was true. Perhaps Ji Suyang's feelings for me really went beyond just tutoring. On Christmas Day, snow began to fall outside. Cheers from other classes echoed in the hallway, along with the scolding of the top class's teacher. Our classmates looked at the snow through the windows, but no one got up to go outside. Everyone was buried in their work, not even sparing a thought for the snow. The Chinese teacher looked at us and said with a smile, "Go out and take a look. The snow is beautiful. Don't stay cooped up in the classroom all the time." But no one moved. Someone whispered softly, "The snowscape is beautiful. I wonder if the snow in Beijing is like this too." The girl who said this was aiming for a university in Beijing. Her deskmate chimed in, "If I get in, this time next year, I'll be watching the snow on campus with the person I like." Those words gave everyone a bit more motivation, and they urged the teacher to continue the lesson. The Chinese teacher returned to the podium, her eyes full of warmth. "Wherever you are next year, I hope you'll all take the time to enjoy the snow. Alright, let's continue with yesterday's reading comprehension." The days of senior year flew by like a fleeting white horse. The countdown on the blackboard dwindled day by day, from 100 days to 50 days, then to 30 days. College entrance exam mobilization meetings were held again and again. Everyone's desks were piled high with thick stacks of test papers, and the calluses on their fingers grew thicker, yet no one complained. A month before the college entrance exam, our class took graduation photos. Everyone finally relaxed a bit, with close classmates putting their arms around each other for pictures. Some girls took the opportunity to take photos with the boys they liked. Xiao Chen also pulled Shen Qian aside to take several photos. And when he came back, he grabbed me and Ji Suyang, "Sister Xia, brother Ji, let me take a few photos of you two together." I was about to say no need. But Ji Suyang had already handed his phone to Xiao Chen and even reached out to put his arm around my shoulder. "Go ahead and take it." I froze in place, and Xiao Chen quickly pressed the shutter, then laughed mischievously. "Brother Ji, you sure know how to do it." I awkwardly took 2 steps back. But Ji Suyang was still looking down at the photo, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned. The sunlight fell on his face, his eyelashes casting faint shadows, making him look unexpectedly handsome. I excused myself to get water and left the classroom. When I returned, Xiao Chen was looking at me with a knowing, almost motherly smile. Just as I was about to ask him what was going on, Ji Suyang took a box out from under the desk and handed it to me. The moment I saw that familiar box, it felt as if all the blood in my body froze instantly. It was the same box Ji Suyang had used to give me a hairpin in my previous life, fighting back a wave of nausea. I took it. As I opened it, a chill crept up my spine. The hairpin inside was exactly the same as the one from my past life. A pink bow with small rhinestones along the edges. My hands trembling, I took out the hairpin. My fingertips brushed against the back of the bow. Sure enough, there was something small and hard attached. I held the hairpin up to Ji Suyang, my voice trembling with barely suppressed anger. Why are you giving this to me again?" Ji Suyang froze, his face instantly turning pale as he stared at the hairpin in my hand. "Xia, what's wrong? Don't you like it? I remember you told Lin Yin back in our second year of high school that you really liked this style." "I don't like it," I yelled at him, hurling the box straight at his face. It hit his forehead, instantly leaving a red mark. He didn't dodge, just stared at me blankly, his eyes filled with shock. I pointed to the signal source on the back of the hair clip and showed it to him. "Look closely. What is this? In our past life, you used this to make me cheat and ruined my life, and now you're pulling the same trick again. What exactly are you trying to do?" Unexpectedly, Ji Suyang snatched the hair clip from me, examining the signal source repeatedly. The expression on his face shifted from shock to disbelief, then to distress, the corners of his eyes turning red. "I didn't put this there, Xu Xia. I would never harm you, you have to believe me." His tone was almost frantic, and I was frightened by his demeanor, instinctively wanting to step back, but he grabbed my wrist. "I really didn't, let's check the surveillance footage. The cameras will definitely prove it." At that moment, I suddenly felt a bit shaken. Ji Yuxiang's gaze was too sincere. It didn't seem fake. Just as we reached the classroom door, we bumped into Lin Yin, who was rushing back. When she saw the red mark on Ji Yuxiang's forehead and my reddened eyes, she instinctively took a step back, her voice trembling slightly. What happened to you too?" When Ji Yuxiang saw her, he suddenly hid the hairpin behind his back, his eyes turning cold. It seemed he had thought of something too. In the surveillance room, our Chinese teacher helped us pull up the recent footage. Ji Yuxiang made up an excuse. "Teacher, I think someone might have touched my things. I'd like to check the surveillance." The Chinese teacher nodded and said, "After you finish watching, handle it properly, don't make too big of a fuss. The college entrance exam is coming up soon." After the teacher left, Ji Yuxiang immediately pulled up the surveillance footage from the morning exercise period. The screen clearly showed that during the exercises, Lin Yin passed by Ji Yuxiang's seat while lining up and secretly glanced at the box inside the desk. When everyone went for lunch at noon, she returned to the classroom, took a small object out of her pocket, and quickly stuck it to the back of the hair clip's bow. The truth struck me like a thunderbolt. It turns out that the person who harmed me in my past life was never Ji Yuxiang, but Lin Yin. No wonder, before the college entrance exam in my past life, Lin Yin specifically reminded me to wear the hair clip Ji Yuxiang gave you. It'll bring good luck. No wonder, right before entering the exam hall, she made sure to check if I was wearing it. She did it so the proctors would find the signal source on me. I leaned on the table, my legs giving way and nearly causing me to fall. Ji Yuxiang caught me in time, his voice full of concern. "What do you want to do?" I remained silent, my eyes filled with uncontrollable hatred, the pain from my past life. The scheme's in this one, I wouldn't let it go so easily. Back in the classroom, Lin Yin immediately came over, pretending to be concerned. "Where did you two go just now, Ji Yuxiang? What happened to your forehead?" "Ji Yuxiang's phone is missing. We went to check the surveillance footage," I said calmly. Lin Yin grew even more nervous, her voice trembling. Then did you find out who stole it?" "No." I deliberately paused, watching her relieved expression before continuing. "Later, I realized I had left my phone at home. It was a wasted trip." Lin Yin immediately smiled. "That's good that you found it. That's good." I also smiled, though the smile didn't reach my eyes. "Yes, that's good that it was found." On the day of the college entrance exam, the weather was very clear. The Chinese teacher handed each student a bottle of mineral water at the entrance of the exam hall, repeatedly reminding them, "Make sure you have your admission ticket, don't be nervous. Just perform as you normally would, I believe in you." Her eyes held only encouragement, without a trace of disdain. Completely different from the homeroom teacher in my past life, Lin Yin also came to see me off, wearing a sincere smile on her face. Xia, this is the last subject, do your best." Her gaze fell on my head, and when she saw me wearing that hair clip, her smile deepened. I hugged her, and from an angle she couldn't see, I quietly stuck the signal source from the back of the hair clip onto the inside of her collar. It was time for her to taste the bitterness she had caused me in my past life. Before entering the exam hall, I took off the hair clip and threw it into the trash can. In this lifetime, I don't need to rely on Ji Yuxiang's gift to give myself confidence. I rely on my own hard work. When the bell rang after the last English exam, I let out a long sigh of relief, walking out of the exam hall. The setting sun was just resting on top of the teaching building, casting everything in a warm golden glow. In the hallway, people were whispering, "Did you hear? Someone was caught cheating. Apparently they brought cheating tools." Really, I just saw the proctor take a girl away. I walked past them, feeling no sense of vengeful satisfaction, only a slight sense of relief. In my past life, they had talked about me the same way, just after stepping out of the exam hall. I saw Ji Suyang leaning against the wall. He was wearing a white t-shirt, his hair slightly messy from the wind, and his face looked tired, completely out of place among the cheerful students who had just finished their exams. When he saw me, his eyes instantly lit up, and he quickly walked over. His voice a bit hoarse. "How did it go?" "Not bad, just like usual." I performed normally. I smiled. Only then did Ji Suyang let out a sigh of relief, his whole body relaxing as he murmured, "That's good. That's good." Looking at the dark circles under his eyes, I suddenly felt my own eyes well up. During this time, he had been even more nervous than I was, checking my stationery and books every day, afraid that Lin Yin would pull another trick. He had even secretly looked into Lin Yin's whereabouts, worried she might try to harm me before the college entrance exam. "Ji Suyang, thank you," I said earnestly. I thought he would say it's nothing, but instead, his eyes reddened, and his voice carried a hint of choking emotion. "This is what I owed you." In that instant, I suddenly understood. Ji Suyang might also be reborn. When I returned to school to pack my things, the whole class was discussing Lin Yin's situation. She was caught cheating, and the invigilator found a signal source hidden in her collar, along with records of her purchasing the device. The evidence was conclusive, and her college entrance exam results were invalidated, just like me in my previous life. She disappeared after the exam and was never seen again. Xiao Chen turned around, scratching his head sheepishly, and said, "Sister Xia, thank you for everything during my senior year of high school. If it weren't for you, I'd probably still be playing video games every day and wouldn't have gotten into college." I teased with a smile, "Don't thank me. Thank Shen Qian. She's the real reason you worked so hard." Xiao Chen's ears instantly turned red as he glanced toward Shen Qian in the hallway. His eyes filled with intense affection. Suddenly, he asked, "Sister Xia, when are you going to confess to Brother Ji Yu? He's always been so good to you." I froze for a moment and didn't respond. I wasn't ready to face Ji Suyang's feelings. After packing up, everyone gradually left. Some had red-rimmed eyes, while others hugged and cried. Xiao Chen also wanted to hug me, but as soon as he reached out, Ji Suyang grabbed him by the collar and pulled him back. "If you want a hug, hug me. Don't touch her." Xiao Chen, completely oblivious, still tried to come closer. "What's the difference? You two are a couple." Ji Suyang was so annoyed by his pestering that his face turned as dark as ink. Shen Qian and I laughed until our stomachs hurt. When it was time to part with Ji Suyang, he looked at me, his eyes filled with unspoken words. "Shu Xia." I interrupted him, gently giving him a hug. "Ji Suyang, thank you, and I'm sorry. Thank you for taking care of me this past year. And I'm sorry for misunderstanding you all this time." His body stiffened for a moment, then he slowly hugged me back, his voice trembling slightly. "I'll wait for you." I didn't respond, turned around and quickly walked away, unable to hold back my tears. I needed some time to process the truth from my past life, as well as my feelings for him. After returning home, I dug out my things from senior year of high school to organize them and unexpectedly found a notebook that didn't belong to me. It was Ji Suyang's diary, which had somehow been tucked among my test papers. Opening the first page, it was dated from the second semester of high school. "Shu Xia brought me breakfast today. It was my favorite red bean bun." She must have asked Xiao Chen about it, right? She went through so much trouble. Shu Xia has dimples when she smiles, and it's really lovely. Today, I saw Shu Xia and Lin Yin browsing on Daobao. She liked that pink bow hair clip. Once I save up enough money, I'll buy it for her. Page after page. It was all the affection the young man had kept hidden in his heart. So, in our past life, when he gave me that hair clip, he genuinely wanted to surprise me, not harm me. Tears fell drop by drop onto the paper, blurring the ink. The next day, I went to Ji Suyang's university. As soon as I reached the campus gate, I saw Xiao Chen and Shen Qian walking out with him. Xiao Chen was chattering non-stop. "Brother Ji Yu, I've already gone to Sister Xia twice this month. If I go again, she's going to get suspicious. Last time, I stopped a guy who was trying to give Sister Xia a love letter, and he almost hit me." Shen Qian smiled and helped Xiao Chen out of the awkward situation. "Ji Suyang, it's been 2 years already. When are you going to go see Shushia yourself? Every year, you send her birthday gifts under my name. She must have suspected something by now, right? Ji Seong remained silent. His eyes filled with hesitation. He was afraid I hadn't forgiven him yet. I stepped out from under the shade of the tree, looked at his stunned face, and said with a smile, Ji Seong, do you think I'm a fool? I've known all along that it was you who sent the gifts every year. His face instantly flushed, and he stammered, I was afraid you didn't want to see me. I do now. I walked closer to him, the sunlight falling on his face. Ji Seong, I don't blame you for what happened in our past life. He looked at me in shock. His eyes filled with joy. Shen Qian quietly pulled Xiao Chen away, leaving just the two of us. Ji Seong slowly moved closer to me, his voice gentle, in our past life. I never got to tell you after the college entrance exam that I liked you. In this life, I don't want to miss the chance again. I stood on my tiptoes and wrapped my arms around his neck. Even though it's 2 years late, this summer is still just as beautiful. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, falling upon us. Warm like the moments we missed in our past life. This time, I finally let go of the hatred and grasped the light that belongs to me. Today's story ends here. If you've listened this far, please leave happy every day in the comments section. Wishing everyone happiness every day.